Hi everyone. I want to do a video about. Actually, I just recently had a chance to see the entire Ring Cycle by Richard Wagner, or as I would say in my hometown, Richard Wagner. I had a chance to see the entire cycle recently, so I'm going to be doing videos on each of the four operas of the cycle, and then I just wanted to kind of do one video over, an overall uh, sort of an introduction to the whole cycle that I saw, the production that I saw. This is the cover of the playbill of the cycle that I saw. I saw it performed at Washington National Opera uh, by Washington National Opera in Washington, D.C. at the Kennedy Center. And the conductor was Philippe Augan, and the director was Francesca Zambello. And this was her production. This is a production. This is considered to be like the American Ring, because it's it takes place. They've set it in the United States, and they've also the costumes and such are American themed. So this really this was the sort of the, I guess, the ambiance of this particular ring cycle. So just a background on the ring cycle, in case you're not familiar with it. The Ring of the Nibelung is a cycle. They call it a cycle of four operas by Richard Wagner, and it really over these four operas, it tells the story of a ring that is forged from the gold that comes from the Rhine, sort of this elemental force of the Rhine that is stolen in the first opera, and then it's made into an all-powerful ring. And if this sort of sounds familiar to you from the Lord of the Rings series trilogy from Tolkien, there's a reason for that, because they are related. I think Tolkien drew some inspiration from Wagner, and then Wagner in turn was inspired by different myths, Germanic myths, Greek myth, and I think Icelandic, the Icelandic sagas. Anyway, mythology, various European mythologies, to construct his ring cycle. And then later on in the 20th century, then Tolkien took inspiration from those same myths and stories, as well as the Wagner opera. So there's a lot of similarities when you look at the whole arc of the story of the four operas of the Ring. There's an all-powerful ring. There is a dragon guarding a golden hoard, which that's Tolkien-esque. There is a blade. There's a hero. There's a sword, a sort of a powerful sword that's been broken, that needs to be it has been foretold that it would be reforged at some point. So it's there's a lot of similarities to the story itself, but I think the operas themselves are really pretty in depth. Musically, they are extremely complex. So in my videos, I'm not going to go into the music so much, because I don't know the music intellectually. I just know my experience of the music. So, I'm not a musicologist, and I haven't studied these operas academically or even intellectually in any way. I've just experienced them in performance, and so that's what I'll be talking about. Although I really want to delve more into knowing these operas intellectually. Because there's just so much there to uncover that it's impossible to really be aware of in just viewing one performance. I have seen this cycle. The other cycle that I've seen was, I watched a streaming from the Metropolitan Opera of New York, from the production from about, I think it was 2011. So I have seen the Ring cycle done before, although that cycle was, had different staging and different costumes and things like that, but it was still the same cycle. So it was a different production, but So I've actually seen the entire cycle through. This was the third time, but it's the first time I've seen it performed live. So, but I won't say a lot about the music, other than one thing that Wagner is known for is, I think he invented, is the leitmotif, which is each of the characters have sort of a musical theme that runs in the background of the opera. So the story's told to us in multiple layers, and so there's this musical layer that's not sung, and then the story's told to us then through the voice of the singers, and then as well through the lyrics themselves. So we're getting the story, we're getting bombarded with these aspects to not just tell us a story, but get us to feel the story, and it really worked for me. It worked on the streaming ring cycle that I saw, and it definitely worked in this live performance. Far exceeded the experience watching it on stream. But anyway, so the story itself, just the arc of the story, just quickly about what the four operas are about. The first one is Das Rheingold. This is sort of the intro opera. It's the shortest one. And it sort of tells us the story of how the gold where the gold started out, beginning of time, how it gets stolen, what's going on with who the gods are, like Wotan and Fricka and Freya, and who the players are, and what has happened, or why the gold is stolen, and then how the ring gets made, and first of all, and then sort of the struggles around the gods reaching their goal, which was to build Valhalla and to get in Valhalla. And there's several steps that they need to go through to make that happen. And then the second opera is Die Valkyrie. So by the second opera, Wotan has a daughter, Brunhilde, and Brunhilde. There's also another set of characters. Sigmund and Sieglinde, and they meet, and it turns out they are actually brothers and twins. They're previously twins, so we get told their story, and then Wotan needs to make a big decision in Die Valkyrie about the fate of Sigmund, and Fricka has her say in that too, and Brunhilde interferes then with what the decision was, and so as a result, she is punished. By the end of the Valkyrie, by the end of the second opera, Brunhilde has been banished to a mountaintop. And in the third opera, Siegfried is the hero that is born. He was and his mom was pregnant with him by the end of Die Valkyrie. He's born in Siegfried and rescues Brunhilde from the mountaintop. But there are, and also he wins the Golden Horde from the dragon. We get told his sort of this hero story in Siegfried. The fourth and final opera is Götterdämmerung, which is the Twilight of the Gods, and this is where all the action culminates, and the balance of the universe is reset. So I hope I didn't spend too much time going into each of those and kind of rambled about that, but I just wanted to kind of give what each of the four are about in general, and then I'll do, of course, like I said, the operas on brief videos on each of them, my experience with each of them. So my experience with the whole cycle itself, I really felt there is this huge arc of story. The whole thing takes about 15 hours. I started seeing Das Rheingold. It started on April 30th for me. Then we had an opera every other day until it was done. So we had Die Valkyrie on the following. I saw Das Rheingold on Saturday. We had Die Valkyrie on Monday. We had Siegfried on Wednesday, and we had Götterdämmerung on Friday. So. and it was evenings of 5 hours, with intermissions and whatnot, more like 5.5 hours. So it was fun though. My experience with the whole opera. One thing I learned is there's a lot of people who really have seen this cycle many, many times. I was sitting next to a woman from Austria, and this was her 16th time to see the entire cycle. She started very young, but she had seen it performed 16 times. And there were other people that I met, because this was a lot of time spent in the Opera House at Kennedy Center, obviously, and so we kind of got to know each other. Those of us who were sitting around each other, and so there's a big following, and I can see why, because probably every time you see it, you would discover something new. Because every time I read an article or read something about the opera, I learn something new, and especially around the music. The music is so complex. To hear it the first time is not enough. It just gets richer the more times that you hear it, I think. That's been my experience anyway. And with this particular American production of The Ring, I don't have a lot to compare it to, because like I said, I've only seen one other production. That was at the Metropolitan Opera. I saw streaming from the 2011 one, I think, is the year. I might be wrong about the particular year, but so I don't have a lot to compare it to. But the whole American themed, with the landscape of the United States, or what's familiar to me here. This was set it was 20th century, I would say. It starts out very pristine, and then as time goes on, the landscape becomes more industrialized, because in the operas, as the arc of the story progresses, the earth gets out of balance when the gold is stolen and the ring is made, and things progressively unwind then until they're made right in the last opera. So that's really my experience. That really was shown really, really super well in the staging and in the scenery that they had. It was American scenery, but it that familiar, like Niagara Falls was there at one point. It seems like there was the Grand Tetons mountains. So it was, but anyway, it felt very familiar to me as an American. And then, the scenery becomes progressively more industrialized, and the environment becomes progressively more ruined as the operas progress, just to sort of show us that, things are out of balance and they need to be restored. And then, the American costumes, like they were basically 20th century. I would say mostly early 20th century for the gods, and each one sort of had their own sort of look. So I'll discuss those more probably as we do the individual operas, because I'm going to run out of time here. But by the time the arc of the story was finished, it was so beautiful. I actually cried at the very end. It was so, I don't know how to, it was just such a wonderful experience for me, to see them every other day like this, and to experience them perform live. And the story is so rich and so dense and so complex, and it applies to our everyday lives so much. Yes, it's a story about myths and gods and magic and this kind of thing, but it really is a human story at the end of it all. It's really about us and how power and frustration and loss and love and all of these things impact our lives. And so to me, it was just beautiful. And at the end was just a beautiful sense of renewal and rebirth, as the universe is made right there at the end. So it was so beautiful. I cried. It was so good. Anyway, stay tuned for the rest of the operas. If you have an interest, I'll do quick videos on each of the 4, and those will be following this video. So I'll see you there. Bye.